everybody? It's Steve. Welcome back to Atlantis Confirmed. Gonna have a long video for you here today. Sorry to you guys who prefer the shorter videos, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run through a bunch of quick stuff in the beginning here. So, you can just watch the first 10 minutes if you want before I do my main lecture for my Padawan Jedi here. So, let's get started. Yesterday, I showed you this cave etching. I just want to catch up on a few things that I've found. I suggested it's because I found it in Algeria next to Lake Chad. And I suggested that the professionalism, not professional, but artistic quality of this etching reminds me of the hieroglyphics, especially the early hieroglyphics that we find, certainly more than the etched hieroglyphics of the granite sarcophagi of the Serapeum. Well, I went back and I found some more. This is also in Algeria. Again, right next door to Egypt. They could have just walked there over time. These are really well done, and that almost looks like another serpent mound right there. The way the egg and the serpent right there. I'll have to explore that. But look at the quality of these. This is in Algeria. I think we are definitely looking at our first megalith builders. This is where they came from. This is the proto-hieroglyphics. You could draw a straight line from this work to the really awesome work that we see in the pre-dynastic stuff that they weren't able to do later on when they etched it on the granite sarcophagi. Here's something else I'm looking at. I think this is a very significant stone that they found. It's got the high symbol and it's carved out in the middle. I'm going to let you know right now, because I'm going to do this video soon, of the hidden image of what I believe was Da Vinci's electric generator. And this looks very much like what's at the top of it. It is a giant magnet in the shape of a high symbol, hollowed out just like this, with what looks to me like a light bulb coming out of the top, like the circular. These were the threads of the light bulb. I'm not saying this necessarily was a part of the machine, but this looks a lot like the machine, how it's configured, what I see, and I'm going to show that to you soon. This is the bone fragment from Göbekli Tepe that's carved, and I just found it interesting how the figure is inside, in between the two pillars, very similar to how the what I believe is the high symbol here, and they've placed in it just more suggestive of energy coming up through here, either spiritual or scientifically manifest. All right, this is just for fun. So I was poking around fertility symbols, vulva symbols, no pun intended, and this one up here caught my eye, because if you take this one and you flip it, you get the Millennium Falcon. Lucas knows. Look at that. I mean, like I said, it's like he just grabbed all this occult stuff and said, I'll take that, I'll use that symbol as my Millennium Falcon. Okay, and this is just for fun too. This is another variation of the plasma deity that we find across the world, and this must have happened at some point in its inflection, because it was fluid and mercurial and whatever you'd like to call it, in flux. And at some point, its head made a heart shape, and I just think that's a really cool, disturbing. It's disturbing and cute at the same time. If I were to get another tattoo, I think I'd consider that it being that. Okay, now let's get back to Phi. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here as to the math of Phi, because I know people's eyes will start to glaze over. So we're going to read this and then we're going to be done. Phi can be defined by taking a stick, breaking it into two portions. If the ratio between these two portions, like how they are to each other, is the same as the ratio of the largest segment to the stick to the whole stick that you had. So you have to imagine your whole stick, and then breaking it so that it would be within line, within 1, 2, 3, so that it's in ratio with the first stick that it was, and then the little sticks that you broke it into. So if this plus this equals this in a straight line, you have phi. This was first described by the Greek mathematician, and that's called the golden ratio, also phi the golden, though he called it division in extreme and mean ratio. Okay, so you can also think of a number that can be phi. Okay, so you don't necessarily need to know all that. Just it's an irrational number like pi, meaning it's a number that has decimal points and then has numbers that will supposedly never repeat. This is the number 1.618 equals phi. So the golden ratio is for every one you have, if you want to put it in the golden ratio, you have to make it 1 plus 0.618, and that will put it in the golden ratio. Now this would be your 1. Now if you want to put this in the golden ratio, you do the same size of 1, and you add 6.18 extra, and now that's in the golden ratio to each other, and that's called phi. This is what it's expressed. This is pi, which is also the high symbol you will recognize. So this is how this is expressed. Okay, so the golden ratio, phi, is also drawn like that in mathematics, and I just couldn't help but notice just how close we are to that. I'll show you this again. Just you have to think. You can't think in modern terms. You have to think in terms of symbols and how the ancients thought. And this could very well be an ancient symbol for phi. We know it's a symbol for phi. It goes back to the Greeks. How far back could it go? Could it go back so far that they were making other images with it? Because we find this fellow, this bug-eyed, weird-nosed fellow. These are all different places, all over the world, and they're very similar. And it almost looks to me like they could be representations of phi, that they are equating it with the spiritual world, they're equating it with the natural world, they're even using it in their stone circles. This was somebody else who put these together. I didn't notice this. I grabbed it off the web. Somebody has put this with how much this looks like the design for Göbekli Tepe as well. Here's other things that phi came to represent. You have the miracle of life happening in the uterus. Phi is also climbing up the Sephiroth there. Here's all the other representation. I want to show you. Here is Yingana. This is Yingana from ancient Australia, right there, and she's featured in a lot of cave art there, ancient cave art. And one of the ways she's featured is showing the Sephiroth in exactly where they're all supposed to be. This to me is too much of a coincidence to ignore. And to say that this is where this proves that ancient Australians, and I think this goes back to 30,000 years. Don't quote me on that date, but a long time, definitely into the more than 10,000 BC, perhaps 13,000 years is what I'm remembering. But they clearly had knowledge of sacred geometry. This is a Yingana who was the supreme creator of life, depicted with the tree of life. This is more evidence that the ancient Australians were the proto-Judaic faith. Okay, so this is where else phi. It's the life. You can get the Ankh also from the Sephiroth. I show you there how you just trace that. It's the life symbol. Phi in the Ophiuchus. Life symbol is also the reproductive organ. I have also found it, this part is broken off, This is a megalith in Japan, an ancient megalith in Japan, and you see it going across there. It's a Sephiroth, and so it's a tree of life, and someone has broken it off. So they are showing ancient signs of sacred geometry all over the world. I've even got my eye on this right now. I haven't explored it fully, but it does not escape me the parallels, and I think we might be looking at because remember, this all comes from the same place. The sacred geometry is a representation of the flower of life. Inside the flower of life, you have Metatron's cube, and in Metatron's cube, you have the dodecahedron. So this could very well be a representation also, because the disc in the same place, this head, the division line, it just does not escape me that we may be looking at another expression of the tree of life here. Okay, so let's get back to phi. And I want to show you something really quick. Imagine this is the Milky Way separating two sides of our galaxy, because this is the view of the sky from Cairo. And it's so funny that only a third of the planet can see the Milky Way in the sky. It's like the rest of us are robbed. Like, we can't look in the sky and see this awesome, only a third of the planet gets to see the world, gets to see the sky like that. So here's the ancient Egyptians and many ancient cultures revered what is known as the Aquila the Eagle constellation. It's right in here. And it was Horus to the ancient Egyptians. It was that's how important it was. And I want you also to look at, this is the ring of the Milky Way that they see. And I want you to notice this bulge right here, because I think that is the origin of the Ouroboros. And I think they saw it, and this needs to be tilted this way just a little bit. But I looked at that and I said, that's the snake eating itself. But we're so used to seeing it on a 2D. I think they're seeing it more straight on, and I couldn't. This is the closest I could find. But I think this is the origin. They knew it was circular, and they knew it continued on the other side. And the bulge here is actually just these two sides, but the distance in this one. But it made it look like a snake eating itself. So as they're staring, you got to remember, the sky was all they had. They didn't have movies and Netflix and all that stuff. So this was their entertainment. So they were very meticulous about their observation because it's all they had. The Aquila, the Horus are like this, and here was what was confusing to me, because if you just look at it like that, it's like, well, okay, that's the head and that's the wings, but they didn't lay it out like that. They actually considered this the head and this the tail. And the head, this star here, was called Sin Fu, or the heavenly rafter. Okay, so this is heaven. 9 and 3 were Deneb El Elkob Australis. That's interesting. I didn't pick that up before. Australis means eagle. That's very interesting, isn't it? Australis means eagle. I know a lot of people here are watching from Australia. Did you know that? Deneb El Okab Australis. Australis means eagle. And that's where a lot of things were from ancient times. That's a very interesting fact. I just discovered while I'm talking to you here. So here's the interesting thing. So that makes this the head and this the tail, and the Milky Way going through. So from the head to the tail, you have to cross over the Milky Way. Here is something else I found. This star, Sin Fu, is also known as NGC 6995. And that is known as 6995 as the Veil Nebula. So you go into the veil of the heavens when you cross over from one side of the Milky Way to the other. And the supernova explosion that occurred here, created the Veil Nebula, occurred 5,000 to 10,000 years ago. I think that's very interesting, that Horus, the head of Horus and the head of the Eagle cult, god, the Aquila the Eagle, Australis, um, was created by a supernova from the possibly 10,000 years ago. Are we looking at a possible cataclysm? And is that why it's venerated? Is that why it's known? Because it went supernova 10,000 years ago and created the veil of heaven. That is, that you have to cross over the Milky Way to get to it. And the reason I keep saying about cross over the Milky Way is because if you'll notice, the star pattern creates a phi right there. And phi has the singularity that takes you into the next realm. So I think this is very telling that the ancient Egyptians and all of the Aztec and all the Mesoamericans who venerated and South Americans who venerated Aquila the Eagle, and this is also including the Sumerians, because that's how far back this constellation goes. The Sumerians and Horus, I think that that's what the significance is. They see this as a phi in the sky. Just came out with that. Yeah, Aquila, the phi in the sky. You cross over the Milky Way into the heavenly veil, where, according to the Torah, you are resurrected and you come back on the other side. And this is also significant in where I find the placement of Altamira Man, because the Altamira Man caves, when they line up, he is placed in the serpent's head, which is right there. So he is in the Aquila Eagle, the head part, the heavenly veiled part, and it's portrayed as a serpent head. So that's, I think, evidence of when we went from the serpent cult to the eagle cult. But I digress. Here's something fun. Right next to Aquila the Eagle, we have this major constellation here. It's Altair and Vega. Also, there is you have to cross the Milky Way to get it, and there's a point where one point in the year, for one day, I believe, or something, there is a section of stars that, or something, a bridge appears across the Milky Way, and I think it's called Jacob's Ladder or something. It's really strange how it's all sort of coming together like that. And there's they are the lovers, Altair and Vega, who only get to see each other once a year and stuff. It's really fascinating mythology. But so this triangle here of Deneb, Vega, and Albireo is known as the Summer Triangle. And you'll see how it frames the Milky Way like that, with Cygnus being right in the center of it. And this is just how my brain works. I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know, but it just seemed to me when I saw that, it's like, I've seen this before. You put Cygnus in, it's like it's the lights of every single UFO we've ever seen. Are they creating their star chart as their lights, and they're saying we're from Cygnus in between? I don't know. But like, my brain works like Google Images. Like I said, it just came up there. So it's just something fun. Let's talk about phi again. Phi is closely associated with the Fibonacci sequence, in which because I realize not everybody may know what Fibonacci is, so I should explain. Phi is closely associated with the Fibonacci sequence, in which every subsequent number in the sequence is found by adding together the two preceding numbers. The sequence goes 0, 1, so you would add 0, 1 together, and you get 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5, and so on. You see what we're doing there? We are going on here, zapping out. Okay, so the way that by taking the ratio of successive Fibonacci numbers, you get closer and closer to phi. So that is the relationship between phi and Fibonacci. Now, Fibonacci got away with murder. I mean, good on him. I mean, he was obviously a brilliant guy that he was able to come up with this on his own. But the idea that he came up with, he's from 1200 AD, the idea that he came up with this, and it's forever known after him, is laughably absurd. I'll show you in just a second. So here's the Fibonacci sequence as numbers. Now, the amazing thing about Fibonacci sequences, all matter, all creation, and I'm even finding energetic forces apply to this as well. All matter, if you plot it out, if you plot out the Fibonacci, it becomes a spiral, just like that. All matter, nature creates to scale from our DNA helix to the spiral galaxy itself, all adhere to the sacred geometry. That's why it's called sacred geometry. It's the geometry of creation. To the mathematical tenets. And math is a universal, eternal language. What was true about math at the beginning of time is true now as should be. That is the eternal language that you cannot fudge. And that's the language that our ancient ancestors are trying to speak to us through, because that was what they understood. And they understood it way before we ever gave them credit for. So all of these things, nature builds to scale, weather patterns, the galaxy, your helix, mollusks, plant life. It's everything. It's the pine cone. That's why the pine cone shape is revered, because it's the compound dodecahedron as the Fibonacci toroidal pattern. Okay, so I showed you that one. Okay, here's just more stuff that it is. All of creation adheres to, including the baby, including just whipping your hair out of the water. All of creation is determined by this Fibonacci pattern, even your fingerprints, waves, weather, galaxy, naturally. Okay, so the ancients knew this. Here they are. Here are the Maya. Aztec, with Quetzalcoatl, and he is being expressed as a Fibonacci sequence. This specific sequence that makes this specific shape. I've also found that on the outside of the pyramid. This is called a anguiped, and it far dates the date. It goes back to 500 BC, which links it to Greco-Roman, which I don't know why anyone doesn't ever mention, because that's clearly Atlantis. You know, as such, that it is a pre-Columbian global circumnavigating culture. And the anguiped has serpent feet, and known for the tetragrammaton, or the name of God for ancient Judaism. And I found that in his pleats. This isn't good enough to see it, but I found that in the pleats of his underwear. So we're looking at ancient Judaism, which today would be called apostate Judaism, even though it preceded it. And this is the expression of the sacred geometry of Fibonacci. I also found it. This is Göbekli Tepe. This is Algeria. They're both Taurus. This is the Fibonacci tree, which I believe is being expressed in both sculptures and expressed in the sky. They chose Taurus as a Fibonacci. You'll notice the Taurus in the sky doesn't have the rest of the body. It just has the head and the horns and stuff, because that's the Fibonacci tree. This is the detailed part. I also found it in the Popol Vuh. This is an image from the Maya Popol Vuh of the stick people, the second people, getting torn apart by their dogs after the cataclysm, according to Popol Vuh. The Fibonacci tree is also making the dog from the Popol Vuh, which I have found is also the Ophiuchus constellation. This becomes Serpens and Orion, because Orion is in the summer and Ophiuchus is in the winter. I looked it up, and now I think I'm wrong, but there it is. Okay, so I found this also on the pyramid. I thought I had it lined up. Sorry. Yep, there's a drawing on the pyramid, or an etching on the outside. I mean, I've done this in a million videos. You can look up my past ones. No, I want to get it. Sorry. Is that close enough? See him? See his big head? Hey, big head. There he is. Boom. Flash warning. You whiners. Okay. There we go. So, yeah, I found this image of the Popol Vuh there. So that means then that this is Fibonacci. Okay, so I also found that the Sphinx is also built upon the expression of the Fibonacci tree, as is the enclosure behind. The rivulets are carved to flow in the Fibonacci tree pattern. When I saw this, it seemed incomplete. I said, well, the way that it's coming inwards here with this pause, I said, well, it looks like it's just doing the opposite on the other way. And it made me create this, which I cannot find anywhere on the web at all. So I have claimed it, just much like Fibonacci had no business saying that he rediscovered it, but here it is clear the Fibonacci pattern and thus Fibonacci sequence, quote unquote Fibonacci. This is thousands of years ago. This is at least 5,000 years ago, whereas Fibonacci's is from 1200 AD. It's not even 800 years ago. They knew about the Fibonacci. Ancients knew about the Fibonacci sequence and the mathematics of it thousands and thousands of years ago. I also think that that's why the universe is still expanding. It's adhering to the Fibonacci tree. It looks exactly. I have better Fibonacci tree pattern. I'm going to do a video later on. I just want to throw that in real quick. Fibonacci is it's irrational. So this is never going to end. It's just being created. It's the digits of the irrational number continuing. And I'm starting to wonder, because this, as I've shown, creates 0 point. If you take the binary code that it becomes, this will if you take them as an individual, they will forever continue and never repeat a sequence. If you take this to where this sequence becomes this, and you flip it, it becomes an exact mirror of each other and gives you the toroidal or vortex math with a literal 0 point. The ancients took that as meaning the Akashic record, karma. It's our gateway point into the spirit world being proven mathematically. That is phi. That's an expression of phi. Where was I going with that? So I think that what a theory may be is that, the Akashic record is time-space itself that is being written, because all of our experiences, according to the Hindus, the Akashic record and karma, and Christianity, everything that you do gets recorded in the afterlife. St. Peter's book, right? Well, consider space-time that is growing, the thumb drive, the space that is the RAM, the memory that is being created by all of our collective experiences. It's got to be written on something. It's got to be written somewhere. And the more people, the more experiences, the faster and more. That's why dark energy, dark matters is expanding, accelerating. I think that it's all of our experience going into the Akashic record, being recorded cumulatively over. Oh, I froze. Over the entire existence of man. And we've got 7 billion people on the planet right now. So it's I don't know. It's just tying together mysticism with current cosmology. So let's continue. So this gives you the 0 point and the toroid. It also, this pattern here, when you turn it on its side, matches refraction. Like if you put a pencil in a glass of water. And I think that's what's going on here in the pyramid design. I know that these twist and turn, but you're not actually creating light. It's just theoretical. But it comes down, and you put the king right here at the point of refraction, or whomever, and that's where the miracle of the physics of refraction occurs right there. It's sending them into the next dimension, just the way refraction sends into another dimension, so to speak. All right, so I also find that this refraction pattern, if you turn it back on its side, you see how it goes straight up and down. I see it's represented here as well. In fact, it's represented both directions, and that's giving us our 0 point right there, which I believe is phi. Because when you when you see how this is 14, 15, 16, when you add them, when you cross them to their corresponding ones on the other side, you get that. And within this, and I listen, I'm sorry the math is dry. It's somebody commented they'd rather do archaeology than math, but I got to go where the evidence takes me, and this is unlocking so much. Sometimes the archaeology is the math, and that's what I'm finding here. Because what the shape that you can make in there is the dodecahedron, which we find the Roman office there. This was a cult of the sacred feminine. They are aware of the dodecahedron. The dodecahedron was sacred in ancient Egypt. It was only taught in it was the king of the Platonic solids, because all the other Platonic solids could be found inside there. It'd be too long a video for me to explain what Platonic solids are, but basically it's every shape in the universe. And this one contains all of them. So there was a thing in the past called the ether, earth, fire, air, water, ether. It was a fifth element. That's where that came from. The fifth element was the ether, which was the invisible. Like think of whatever makes up atoms. What atoms are made of. The universe at its most basic, they believed, was static. And it was made up of these compound dodecahedrons that as you move through, it became whatever the universe needed. It's the stem cell of the universe. But creation, reality at its most base is static, and it's made up of compound dodecahedrons, which form a toroid in the 0 point, which take everything that happens in this world into the spirit realm, and then the toroid brings it back to you, a la karma. All right, I also found this on our Quiché Maya Gravegood. This was from the Mayan scribe, his grave, and never supposed to be seen. The reason why there is a blacked out center is because they didn't want you to see what is at the center of all these. Don't complain about my drawing. It's a workbook. I'll have a better drawing another time, but it's another dodecahedron. So they knew as well. I found that this is from Mesoamerica, Guatemala. This is in Mexico. This is from Rapa Nui, Easter Island, across the world. It's the same template. Instead, they just didn't have the center line on this one. Put the center line here, and you've got the same. This one has a center line. Put a line here and a line here, and you've got the exact same template. Why is this template carved? Because these were the dimensions of every moai, and this is how they carved it out. I don't know why they left it on this one, but thank God they did, because it's also on the back, which confirms, and it's still the same thing. So I don't know why this isn't getting more attention, my discovery, but here we go, right? Now, here's something else interesting. If you unfold a dodecahedron, you get this very specific pattern. And this very specific pattern is called a double spiral helix mathematical equation. And it's a dodecahedron that has been unfolded. If you folded all this back up, you get the dodecahedron, which is the ether. I find that on the pillars in Göbekli Tepe in snake form. We also find it on Göbekli Tepe pillar 43. Just throwing it out there, just saying what I see. Here was something interesting in the 1960s. These Russian guys, boy, it's always the Russians. Hats off to you, Russians. You guys really are open-minded with your physics. Velikovsky in the 50s, who was Einstein's contemporary and colleague, is the one who first came up with the different planetary alignment theory. And these Russian guys were the ones who said, okay, well, let's take a dodecahedron. They used the North and South Pole as their alignment points of the dodecahedron. And based on that dodecahedron, with the North and South Pole set as the defining points of the dodecahedron, they just discovered what else lined up. And here's all of the things that lined up on this dodecahedron: Giza, the Great Pyramid, Mohenjo-daro. That's the city that looks like it was destroyed. The pyramids in Xi'an, China. Let's see. Bimini Road. The megaliths at Axum. Bangkok and Angkor Wat. Let's see, Micronesia. Let's see, what else is on there? Easter Island and its megalith, Rapa Nui. There's 22 of them. I'm just picking out the main ones. So on this dodecahedron that they've aligned in the 60s with the North and South Pole, all these major megalith, ancient sacred sites line up to it. Is that evidence of more evidence that the ancients knew about the dodecahedron? Okay, here's just something I found that's really interesting. I like to throw at you from time to time. This is called a regular cross section of a dodecahedron. So this is the shape. If you were to say to a mathematician, draw a regular cross section of a dodecahedron, this is what you get from the top. It's a flat surface, but it would appear to be shard-like. And also, I want to point out the straight. We find all these rocks that are circular, that are cut in half, like the megaliths across the world. I should have added a few on here. I think that's what they're demonstrating. They're demonstrating the regular cross section of a dodecahedron. But take a look at this particular shape right here. Right? You know how I like to throw at you that this is from the Dark Crystal. And look what he does. The end of the movie, he has to replace a regular cross section of a dodecahedron into a dodecahedron. The Dark Crystal is an occult film. Okay, so I knew about phi, and I knew about vortex math and toroidal math. This is Tesla. But Tesla's thing works for Tesla's stuff, but I never found it matching nature, not the way the Fibonacci spiral does. So I never paid as much attention, but this is the only other example I can see of toroidal math, of creating a 0 point like that. And this takes a lot more effort to create the toroid than the Fibonacci tree inverted, which is, boom, there it is. There's no counting out that needs to be done. You just invert it and it creates the 0 point. If you're ever wondering why Egyptians made their hieroglyphs sideways, there you go. Excuse me. They're drawing them as as sacred geometry in the proportions. This all comes from the dodecahedron. They are also making the toroidal math, and you see where the genitals, the place of this is the creation of life, where life comes from. Okay, so this particular pattern is the sigil of Lucifer, also supposedly. But you see, it's also phi and stuff. And I just point this out to you because how silly it is. And what it really is this was all worship of the sacred feminine that was literally demonized. There is no such thing as demons in hell and all that stuff, but it was literally demonized by the Catholic Church, and that's why this became the sigil of Lucifer. It's vortex math. This is phi. This was all just stuff you weren't supposed to know because it led back to the sacred feminine. You are also a phi, the electromagnetic field of the heart, and you see where your 0 point is. It's right where they prayed. Remember I showed you that? The ancients felt like your center of your being is not in your head, not in your throat, not in your genitals, anywhere. It's the center of you, where you really are, is your heart, and right there, because that's where the 0 point happens. The ancient mystics called that the Merkaba, which I'm going to get this order wrong, but it's like mind, body, spirit. And you are a 3, and this is also where the Star of David comes from. This is called a star tetrahedron. The Star of David is a 2-dimensional representation of the star tetrahedron, the 3-dimensional star tetrahedron. But don't worry, my Catholic friends. You too are still drawing a phi and incorporating the phi into your existence as well. One could almost argue the refraction also seen on the Sphinx. Okay, so this is Stonehenge, and I want to show you just how Judaic. I mean, come on. This is the Star of David in its center. It's surrounded by high symbols. This is vortex math. This is the dodecahedron. This is also I believe also that this isn't necessarily they weren't necessarily all the lentils on top of them. Because if you just take just one off on either side, you can spell the tetragrammaton with the lentils. But even without that, you have a. Here's what gets me. This is pi, and this is the high symbol. It's the same symbol. You here at Stonehenge, you have a circle made of pi symbols, and no one puts that together. Yeah, that the ancients put it all together. That pi, the irrational number of pi, uh, was also sacred, and it was a symbol of life because it's the irrational. That the toroid again, the and this is what they're creating. This, if I mean, look at this. I mean, the Star of David right there in the middle. This is the Metatron's cube. You're surrounded by high symbols. This is a proto-Judaic site. Here's something else that I found very interesting. This is an energy pattern, um, and I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, my brain works this way, but you see how they. I saw this and I said, they're really going to crucify me for no pun intended for showing this, but I don't know. Is there some sort of energy a link up going like this? Does this have something to do with it? In that regard, let's talk about torsion fields because that is what comes. This is what it looks like scientifically: vortex in, vortex out, and then it comes right back at you. You're drawing out, pushing into the other. These are the things that work that way. Your brain, your body, all have torsion fields. This is what it looks like on a molecular level. This is for plasma. And what I'm demonstrating here is it isn't just matter that is adhering to this Fibonacci toroidal sequence. Math, the magnetic field, and of course this is the other there's two versions of this. There's one with this blacked out and one with this creation sun that's in the middle there, and that's creating the toroid as well. Here's more torsion field in a black hole because nature creates the scale. This is the magnetosphere of Earth as a torsion field, and this is the double helix the Hermes staff and your DNA. So it's you see how it just follows up the dodecahedral pattern of the dodecahedral rotation of DNA double helix. It's also the pattern where this is where balance. Right here is the center point, the balance point. We also see it in the cosmos. Led Zeppelin tried to tell us right on there. This is the torsion field symbol that it's on the nuclear family home there. It's not satanic. It was just banned by the church. But this is the secret. And I'm just going to remind you, this is the Saturn polar configuration. Again, creating the toroidal field, and that's what taught us everything. It's hey kids, I thought I'd bring back Squatty the Squatter Man, just to let you know, I'm not going to be called Squatty the Squatter Man anymore because that just sounds kind of weird. It sounds like I'm always trying to take a dump. So my new name is just going to be the Plasma Deity, and I think that's catchy and kind of slick. Now back to that weird guy. I had requests to bring back Squatty the Squatter Man. Actually, it's just Plasma Deity now. Okay, so this is a friend of mine online. He sent this to me. that you can connect the Phi pyramid with the dodecahedron geometrically. I'm putting this out there because I want some help. If anybody's much better than math at me, and it's not difficult. There's something to what I'm about to show here that I want to know if anybody can tell me what the significance of this could possibly, because it's got to be something. I'm just not smart enough mathematically to get it. So I'm crowdsourcing here. Connecting the Phi pyramid with the dodecahedron geometrically. He's a whiz with, these computer simulations and such. And he has found that there is one specific angle where the Phi pyramid connects with the dodecahedron geometrically. And there it is. It only exists at this one angle, that these particular angles here match up, and in such a way that it creates a dodecahedron. He tried to explain it to me. It's just far above my head. I got the link. So I said, well, what's the angle? Because maybe that's significant. And he gave me the number, and I punched it in. It's 63.3.49, and it continues. It's because it's a rational number. And I was like, I'm just going to put in that many, because that's honestly all I could remember when he told me. And I punched it just to Google, see if anything, and damn it, what is the inverse tangent of 2? That seems, I was floored. I was like, wait a minute, I just punched in 63.4349 just to see what would come up. And it is the inverse tangent of such a basic number as 2. Here's the thing, I don't know what the hell an inverse tangent is. I don't know what the significance of this is. But he has discovered that there is one angle of the Phi pyramid that creates a dodecahedron. And the number of that is, the precise number of that angle is 63.4349. I typed it in, and it's that exact number. Which, what are the odds that I would place this many decimals after a number? And I mean, somebody could probably tell me mathematically, but you punch in a number like that and something precise comes up. I think there's something to this. What is the inverse tangent of 2? They're trying to tell us something here, that you get the dodecahedron with the Phi pyramid with the inverse and tangent of 2. I don't know what that means, but it just seems, how the hell did I punch in such a random number, so specific and so long as that, and it's something as basic as that? That seems incredible. That seems really improbable. That seems like this is somebody smacking me in the face with a red flag, and I have no idea what it means. So, or what it could signify, but it's just too out there to, I mean, it's like if you went, 38.68492, and you poked it in, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, that's the answer to this equation. It's like, wait a minute, what? I just random sequence of numbers, and it's something as basic as the inverse tangent of 2. Something is being said here. There is some universal truth, or some forgotten math, or I don't know, maybe this is the formula for interdimensional travel. I'm going to go get my flux capacitor and try it out. This ended up being much longer than I intended. They always do. Here's Phi. And I believe, here's what I want to say as a summation. I never expected this as I started these videos, but this realization that, I had always believed, since I was a Catholic, and then once you start diving into the stuff, you just realize that everything attributed to Jesus, from his birth date to the stories that he did, everything, the fish, all comes from stories that are far, far older than the Jesus tale. Whatever works for people, you can worship a washing machine, as far as I'm concerned, as long as it makes you a better person in this world, whatever does it for you. But for me, once I found out all that, I just couldn't continue in that faith. What did appeal to me then was the idea of karma and the Akashic record and the idea of just being a good person and putting energy out there that do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You know, just don't be a dick. You know, it's not real. It's not real hard. Um, and so I was already open to that, and I knew about vortex math, but until I discovered that mathematically you can prove the the gateway, that the Akashic record isn't just something, karma isn't just something in the ether of mysticism that's just a concept to think about. It can be explained mathematically. And that's really, really sunk hard with me and had a profound, I never expected to be able to find mathematical proof of the Akashic record and karma and a portal to to another dimension, another spirit world that is defined mathematically. Um, and it's changed me behaviorally, and I think for the better. And that's something I never would have expected to get out of this, and I have, and I'm very pleased about that. This is what we're looking at. This is the basic. This is if there is an ether, this is what it looks like. This is maybe why electrons can't be measured, because they're popping in and out of these of our dimension into this other dimension. Um, we have the Vesica Pisces right there. Hi, Jesus. So I think this is what we're looking at, and because it would contain also all of the electromagnetic spectrum, it's a rainbow toroid. There's much more colors and everything going, but this is all that we can see. Um, if there is a face of God, this is her. This is the creation goddess. This is the 0 point inflection of our world into the next world, where everything we do gets translated into the spirit world and comes right back to us. This is the ether. This is the compound dodecahedron. This is the secret of the universe. This is the secret of the universe according to the ancients. Wherein everything that, from the design of their buildings to the way they lived their life to their math to creation itself, was all the same. It was all spiritual. It was all sacred. And I don't know where else I could go from there. But I hope you are getting out what I get out of this in any way, because I'm really getting a lot of good things out of this, and I hope you can say the same. All right, this is Steve, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Adelante.